Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jay from Sony Alpha Lab, and what I got for you today is pretty much, in my opinion, the best all-in-one lens solution for the crop factor Sony E-mount cameras. This is the Tamron 17 to 70 f2.8 Di3A VCRXD lens. It's a fast aperture f2.8 lens all throughout the zoom, so it's not a variable aperture. It has vibration control, so image stabilization built in, and 17 to 70 range is absolutely killer. That works out to 25.5 approximately to 105 millimeter. So that's a huge range, and all at f2.8. So you can use this lens for everything: landscapes, portraits, you name it, pet photography, sports photography, and so forth. The lens is fairly large and it is fairly heavy. I'll go over those specs in a second. All right, so in this review, I'm going to show you the lab testing photos so you can see the corner sharpness and all that type of stuff. And then we'll go over some real world photos so you can see what this lens can do in the real world. And I think you're going to be quite impressed at the results. I also just wanted to give a special thanks to BH Photo Video for letting me borrow this lens for this review. I really appreciate it. And if you guys need any gear for photography or video, be sure to check out BH Photo Video. It's an awesome store. Links below the video. All right, let's just get right into it. So in the hands, this is what the 17 to 70 millimeter lens looks like, and it has a nice pinch style lens cap here. So you can see here on the front, it's got a 67 millimeter filter thread, and it also has the fluorine lens coating on the front of the lens element there, so it'll help with water and stuff will bead off easier with that lens coating. And it has a nice pedal style lens hood here. Put that on like that, and that's what she looks like from that angle. Now looking at it from the back here, you have the metal style lens flange, and it also has the rubber gasket here, which makes for excellent weather sealing protection when it marries up to the camera itself. So looking at the zoom range here, we got 17 to 70. So the lens doesn't really grow that much considering how much zoom range it actually has. So the lens has a max aperture of f2.8 throughout the entire range, and it goes all the way to f16. Now the effective crop factor zoom range is about 25.5 to 105 millimeter. It has 3 spherical elements, and it also has VC stabilization, which is basically optical stabilization, so that's built in, which is great for lower shutter speed hand holding. It also has the broadband anti-reflective coating on the lens elements inside to help with reflection and, lens flare, things like that. And it also has the rapid extra silent stepping motor, the RXD motor, which is a really good motor. It's pretty much silent and it focuses extremely fast. It's also very, very accurate. It has a moisture resistant construction, and like I showed you a second ago, it has that rubber gasket on the back, which is also really nice. This lens has a minimum focus distance of 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters, and it also has a 9-blade rounded aperture diaphragm in there. It's kind of hard to see, but it's in there. Has a filter thread of 67 millimeter, and the lens weighs in at a pretty hefty 1.2 pounds or 525 grams. And the retail price for this lens is $799. So it's fairly expensive, but you're getting a super high quality optic. As far as the zoom, it's a little bit tight, but it's very smooth, and that will probably loosen over time. Most lenses do. And the focus ring feels pretty darn good. It's not the most buttery feeling, but it definitely is very smooth. It doesn't feel scratchy or anything. So let me just show you what it looks like mounted up to the A6400 quick. And there you have it. So that's what it looks like mounted to the A6400. And you can just see the size of it. It's definitely a fairly large, fairly heavy lens, I would say, overall. But it does the job well, and I highly recommend it. All right, let's check out some lab testing and some real-world photos, shall we? All right, guys, so here we are in Lightroom going over the lab testing photos. This is at 17 millimeter f2.8, and you can see the EXIF data up here in the top left. Now, first thing I wanted to show you was the distortion, because there is a little bit of distortion at 17 millimeter, and also vignetting. It's not that bad, but it is there. So let me just zoom in here and show you the corner sharpness. Now this isn't the absolute very corner, but you can see even in the very corner, this lens is extremely sharp. Unbelievably sharp, actually. Fantastically sharp optic. As you can see here, and that's at f2.8, so it's only going to get sharper when you stop it down. So I'll show you here This one has the lens profile correction here, you can see. This is at f4, and you can see it, tacked up maybe a little bit. If I zoom in here to 24 millimeter, let me show you the distortion there. That's with and without. All right, so if I zoom in again at 24 millimeter, you can see, again, the corner sharpness is absolutely phenomenal. Excellent sharpness on this lens. Really, really impressive. It's got a nice bokeh ball rendering as well. See the detail on the crayons and the pipe cleaner is just fantastic. So if I go to 36 millimeter, it's trying to get 35, you could see again the corner sharpness, absolutely outstanding. And the center sharpness is just ridiculous, tack sharp. I don't see any fringing or anything like that. Now let me move on to 52 millimeter. Again, I was trying to get 50 millimeter, but 52 will do. And again, killer corner sharpness. Absolutely fantastic. Look at the pipe cleaners in the bottom left. Super, super sharp at f2.8, which is, again, just absolutely remarkable. I mean, this is what you would expect from a lens that costs this much, but a lot of the times it's not this sharp in the corners. So I'm particularly impressed with this lens for sure. And you can see the bokeh ball rendering is excellent as well. If you watch my reviews, you can see some lenses aren't as good as others, and the lab really does exploit that. But this lens is performing phenomenally in the lab. Now here at 70 millimeter f2.8, I do see just a slight amount of softness in the corner, but it's very, very minimal. I mean, it's still sharp, but you could just see there's a little bit of softness there when you compare it to the center of the frame, like over here, for example. Let me just walk through the 70 millimeter quick so you can see the bokeh balls change as I stop it down. That's f11, f16, and f22. Now, the minimum focus distance test, this was at 70 millimeter, and I just want to do a quick run through here so you can see how the bokeh balls render. So that's 2.8, that's f4, that's f5.6, f8, f11, f16, and f22. All right, let's move on to the real world photos now. All right, so looking at the real world photos, we got a picture here of my parents' dog, Jasmine. And you can see I did make some adjustments because the backlit was so intense. As you can see here, looking at the original photo, the exposure was just obviously severely underexposed. So I dragged up the shadows and brought down the highlights a little bit and got quite a bit of detail out of the photo. Here's just another one. Such a cute dog. Adorable. Here's one of Layla. She was helping my mom cook. And just look at this sharpness. Absolutely top quality right there. Was at 48 millimeter. And now here's zoomed into 70 millimeter. Pretty much the same shot, just, half a second later. And again, look at the eyes. Absolutely incredible sharpness. I was using the A6400 for all these test photos. There's just a bowl of cherries. Super nice contrast, color, clarity, sharpness. It's all there. Depth of field. You can see the counter here is out of focus. Just exceptionally good. Another one of Layla and my mom. And they were just making some pork cutlets. Man, did these things come out good. They were so juicy. Here's one with Jace and Sophie on the couch. Jace loves dogs. Sophie is so cute. She's much older, but a really good dog. Yeah. Here's another one of Jace. He's like, "What you looking at, boy? What you looking at?" He's giving me the side eye. And this is what the pork cutlets looked like when they were all done and breaded. Here's one of Layla holding up some cherries. I just wanted to show you this depth of field play type shot at 70 millimeter, and you can see how just the background butters out so nicely, giving you that really cool 3D pop separation. And here's another example of a portrait of the dog looking down, and you can see the sharpness is absolutely phenomenal. Detail, ridiculously good. And the depth of field play really makes this image pop and, has it look more 3D than it would otherwise. Here's one of my mom, super happy. She loves when we come to visit, of course. Now here's what the meal looked like when it was all cooked. This is my plate. It was absolutely fantastic. I gotta tell you, every single item on this dish was phenomenal. My mom and Layla did an amazing job. So this lens would be great for food photography and stuff like that. Here's one in the garage. I just wanted to show you 17 versus 70 quick. I was actually sitting in a chair getting my shoes on, and I was like, ooh, let me just take a picture. So here's 17, and here's 70 from the same location. And here's another example of that. This is 17 millimeter. We were getting ready to go camping. And here's 70 millimeter from the same exact spot. Here's one of Layla posing in the street at 17 millimeter, so you kind of get that little bit of a wide angle effect. And here's one of Jace. This is actually at 70 millimeter, so you can see the background depth of field separation. And these are raw files straight off the camera too. I didn't edit these at all, just so you know, other than the lens profile correction. Here's one of Layla. This one's at 70 millimeter. So you can see if I zoom in, the background is like slightly out of focus here, the depth of field. And this lens did a great job. Here's one of Jace. It came out really good. That was more of a wide angle, and now here's one at 34 millimeter. Now check out this minimum focus distance shot of this flower. Thought it came out pretty good. Here's a shot of the Salisbury Mills Viaduct, wide angle, 17 millimeter. It's a great view, and I think this shot came out very good. Now here's one at 70 millimeter from the same location, so you can see what you can get with the zoom range. Quite good. Some depth of field play here. You can see the trestle, the support beams in the background there. It looks pretty cool. And this would look a lot better with some contrast. If I just put a medium tone curve on there like this, you'll see that the contrast punches up quite nice. But it's a little bit flat on the raw file though, but that's normal. Now here's one just shooting through the weeds, so you can see the cows there. There's another weed, purple weed. Came out pretty good. Now here's another trestle that's like tucked away in the woods here, and I thought it was a pretty cool reflection shot. If I add a little bit of contrast there, it'll look a little bit better. I need to just dehaze it a little bit too. There we go. That looks better. Now if you zoom in, you can see sharpness is killer. Look at that cool reflection. Actually, one other thing you could do to really make this look better is drag the vignette to darken the edges, something like that. That looks much better in my opinion. Now here is just a 17 millimeter version of the same scene, so you can see the bridge is actually quite far away when you look at it from the 17 millimeter point of view. Now here's just a sign by the trestle telling you probably, the no fun sign, I guess. Here's one down at the Basherkill. These two people came by. They were having a good time riding on their bikes, so I just took a quick snapshot of them as they were going past. So I went over to the Vanderbilt Mansion the other day and took a couple of photos, and this is what you can expect is that 17 millimeter straight off the camera. Looks pretty darn good if you ask me. And here's one at 30 millimeter. Here's one at 48 millimeter. Lots of detail. And look at the detail on this thing. It's just really, really impressive. Now this is just a model of a house. The actual house was to the left of this, but I just wanted to zoom in at 70 millimeter f2.8 to show you the depth of field play and separation you can get, and this is a really good example. In my opinion, it gets that nice 3D pop, nice clarity, contrast, and so forth. Now here's the awesome garden, and I think this shot came out really good as well. I did bring the highlights down on this one because the highlights were pretty blown out on the sky there. So I just dragged them back a little bit. Here's one of a sculpture. I'll zoom in just a little bit there. Came out pretty good. Here's one of Jace. He was doing his birthday wishes there. He was a little embarrassed, I guess. I don't know why. He usually isn't with the camera. Actually, sometimes he is, but lately he hasn't been as much. Now check this shot out. I actually had the camera set to f22 because I was doing the lab testing photos, and I forgot I left it on f22. So the exposure was 3.2 seconds, and I was just hand holding it. And I thought it came out really cool. It almost looks fake, But anyway, I set the camera correctly and took another shot, and this is what it looks like. So this is my new road bike. It's actually a Trek Domani endurance bike. So it's, made to ride for a long period of time. So it has a little bit of flex in the chassis frame area. It's all carbon. It's pretty sweet. All right, so I just had a couple of HDR photos I wanted to show you guys quick. And HDR stands for high dynamic range photography, if you're not aware. And you can basically take multiple exposures at different EV values and then combine the images in post. So you capture a lot of the highlight detail and a lot of the shadow detail in high dynamic range scenes. And basically it ends up making more surreal shots in a variety of scenarios. So, the sky would be just all white if I didn't do that in this particular shot, for an example. So here's just one of the Salisbury Mills trestle. viaduct, whatever you want to call it. Here's one from the Basherkill Wildlife Preserve. This one came out really good, I think. Check out this one. I love this composition. It's got all the shadows, highlights, detail, 17 millimeter, super sharp, tons of detail, nice color. Here's the Vanderbilt Mansion. Look at this thing. Unbelievable. There's another one. All right, so that is it for the real world photos. Let's wrap this review up, guys. All right, so for the conclusion, what I have to say is I can't recommend this lens enough. It's $800. It's definitely an investment, but it's a high quality optic that will do everything. And if you just want one lens and you want to walk around, you don't want to change lenses, or you're going to an event and you just don't want to have a big camera bag, you just want the one lens, this is a perfect option. And it's a good investment in my opinion because it's going to last a really long time and it can do pretty much everything well. So it's in my opinion the best all-in-one lens option right now for the crop factor Sony E-mount cameras. There are several other lenses out there. Sony makes quite a few. The 16-70 f4 Zeiss lens is also a really great option, but it's a slower f4 aperture. Although, you know, it is a slightly wider on the wide end, the 16 millimeter. But the f4 versus f2.8 is a big difference for low light photography, which is why this lens is as big as it is. That f2.8 constant aperture results in the lens needing to be larger just because of the size of the glass elements. So I really hope you guys got what you were looking for in this review. Please let me know below the video in the comments area. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have this lens already, or if you have other questions in regards to this lens. I'll be happy to try to answer them. And do me a favor, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up if you thought the video was useful. I really appreciate that. And I will catch up with you guys next time. So you take care and be safe out there, all right?